Good morning and welcome back to the very final segment of Rapid Done right here on Rapid TV. Of course, we're in for the big conversation, and we're talking about news that has made headlines throughout the dailies and news outlets on mass media platforms. And of course, we go again today as always. But before we go on, my name is Martha Alu.
And of course, my name is Victor Arke. Welcome to the 9 o'clock hour. And thank you to Emmanuel for the sports updates.
He must always do that. But anyways, let's move on. Now, the Budget Office of the Federation is meant to publish a quarterly budget report, which is called BIRs.
Right.
And budget has flagged that the federal government has not published a single BIR in nearly 1 year, from Q2 of 2024 to Q2 of 2025. Right. Now, we also, through research, have come to find that the refusal to publish this is a violation of the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2007, which mandates the Minister of Finance to cause the reports to be published in mass media and online within 30 days after each quarter. As of August 2025, the government has withheld nearly 4 BIRs through Q2 of 2024 and 2025 under this administration. Right after that, we see now that the federal government has halted the release of quarterly budget reports. That is the conversation we'll be having today, right here on Rapid Dawn. And to help us dissect that, what better person than Mr. Idris Adeniyi? Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Idris Adeniyi is an economist and a portfolio manager, and he'll be helping us understand the intricacies of this conversation today. Once again, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. So, like I read out, let's first of all understand what BIRs are and why it is important to have them put out there in the public space.
Okay, okay, good. Yeah, that was a very nice intro on the topic. And basically, like you said, the FRA of 2007, that's Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2007, clearly stated the budget implementation report publication. You know, the responsibility which falls on the Minister of Finance, who also today is the coordinating minister of the economy. You know, so and then the act also stated that look, the BRR is to be published 30 days after every quarter. So what we've seen over the last 4 quarters is a clear violation of that act. You know, and you know, for government knows reasons, because the last publication was Q2 of 2024. You know, so we have like a back-to-back 4 different quarters. If I mean, we just the last day of Q3, so it's a clear, you know, 12-month violation or 4 quarters violation of the BRR. So that sets the stage for discussion. You know, but it's clear this is a responsibility that falls on the Minister of Finance, and it ought to have been published 30 days after every quarter.
30 days after every quarter.
Yes.
Now, having understanding this, halting the release is a clear breach of the rights according to 2007, right? Fiscal Responsibility Act, right? That's a breach of that act. What does that say about this administration? Administration's respect for the rule of law?
Well, for the question, that was a very big question. So, but the truth is, whereas a lot of macro data efforts, you know, of this administration have been, you know, looking upwards, you know, a lot of people, even the IMF and World Bank and the prominent economics around the world, admitted that this government has been able to stabilize the economy based on clear macros that we can see. We talk about the reserve, unencumbered reserve. You know, we talk about the GDP growth, you know, and all of that, you know. So and then, but with all of that achievement, this part, I mean, the topic of today is a very serious lag on the government. is a flagrant abuse of our law. You know, this is a law clearly passed by the National Assembly, who has the responsibility, you know, to, you know, pass such law. And then we've also seen that the government before this current government have complied with that law. So why this government decided or chose to look the other way around, despite having some of the best, you know, economic acts, you know, in the government, remains, you know, your guess is as good as mine. So,
all right, you mentioned the National Assembly.
Yeah.
And according to report, the National Assembly actually injected about 11,000 projects, worth about 6.9 trillion naira in 2025.
yeah.
Now, with the halting of the budget implementation report, how can this project be monitored, you know, to avoid, because some of the concerns as well is budget padding as it is. So how can this project be monitored to avoid, you know, budget padding, unless Nigerians also get to see the implementation of this project?
Okay. The devil, they say, is in the details. And I want to assume that where a system that lacks transparency will always, you know, give room for suspicion, you know. Prior to this time, we've seen different organizations, prominent among which is Budget, that raise alarm on budget padding and then fictitious, you know, activities going on and all of that. So the non-publication of the PRR has, you know, given credibility to all of those claims by these people or by these different, you know, organizations, concerned, you know, organizations. So I think it's not a good one for Nigeria. It's not a good one for Nigeria. And then who will come out to tell us now or to convince us otherwise based on the allegations that have been put forth, you know, in the beginning of the year, based on budget padding, particularly the National Assembly. And of course, we know it, the facts are there, that that is an avenue for our lawmakers, you know, to share, to have their own share of the national cake, you know. But then the suspicion will have been lessened. The anger will have been lessened on citizens if we at least have this publication made by the law, maybe 30 days, you know, 30 days after every quarter. Let's even know. So the citizens will have that sense of responsibility, sense of belonging. It's our money, it's public funds, and the public has every right to know how their revenue is expended.
Right.
So I think it's an area that the government must pay very strong attention to.
Okay. Looking at the budget standing at around over 54 trillion naira currently. Let's talk about investments or investors even. Now, we see that the budget for 2025 is around 54.99 trillion naira. Estimated revenue projection is around 41.81 trillion naira, and a deficit of 13.08 trillion naira. Now, without the quarterly reports, how can we attract investors into our country, Nigeria, who wouldn't just see the fact that this is our budget on paper, but the implementation of it realistically?
Unfortunately, for the system, and unfortunately for Nigerians, let me put it that way, these foreign guys, they so much trust our economy, they so much recognize the potentials that this economy can deliver. So irrespective of the opaqueness that we see in some of these government activities, they still come forth to, you know, put their funds in Nigeria.
What do they see basically in the economy?
It's clear. This economy provides a very high return on their investment.
That's foreign investment.
The foreign investors. That's number one. And then we've seen, like I said in the beginning of the program, that a lot of fundamentals are, you know, speaking very correctly of this government, that look, they can do a lot of things. So unlike what we used to have in the past, where investors will come and then at the maturity of the investment, they will find it difficult to repatriate their funds. That has been a big thing of the past. So now you come into Nigeria with your money, despite the high interest rate environment, which was at some point earlier in the year, January, February, we're seeing a fixed income, or maybe even OMO yield was as high as 27%, 28%. You know, bonds, I mean, mid-tenor and all of that, the belly of the curve was doing around 22%. So which economy won't want to, you know, so we see all of these guys, you know, raising debt from their country and pushing such to Nigeria. And we've seen the impact on our foreign reserve. You know, I mean, it's touching record 42 billion or 43 billion now, you know, and all of that. So they have that confidence that, look, if you bring your money to Nigeria, you will enjoy a very high interest rate, and of course, it will be easier for you also to repatriate your fund. You know? Okay. So that's an attraction for them. But unfortunately for Nigerians, you know, we've not been able to see how well our resources are being managed.
Well, while we talk about, because I've heard you mention countless times that the government, there is proof in the growth of the GDP, and the government has statistically done well. Are we saying now that one of the major metrics to deciding whether or not the government does well economically is just the statistics? Because if the statistics of that is being provided is not commensurate to the upgrade in the lives of the people that are within the country, does that still count for growth in GDP? Growth in GDP, we know that it has been said countless times on paper, but what we see in the life of the common day Nigerian is not relatable.
Yes, you are right. You are right, and it shows in all facets of our life as Nigerians. You know, I'll give a very simple instance. Today, you know, the monetary policy rate is 27%.
Absolutely.
But in the market, because ordinarily in a same system or economy, the difference between, there shouldn't be too much spread between the MPR and the market rate. You know, it's 27% MPR, and what you are seeing in the market today for, say, 5-year bond is around 16%. Just yesterday, 2030 bond, which is 5-year, closed 16% in the primary auction that DMO conducted. You know, you can see the mismatch. And if you talk about money market, excuse me, we talk about money market, you see 18% against 27%. You know, of course, so that tells you typically the mismatch that we have in our system. But the truth is, you know, unless and until the financial intermediators begin to set their eyes on the real sector of the economy, providing them funds, and of course the MSMEs, because that's where the chunk of our population and the reside. So unless and until we begin to look in that direction, I don't think they will see practicable impact on Nigerians, because what these banks do now is just, it's free for them. They just get all of these funds from all of us, from the market, and then take it to OMO. They buy OMO at 27%. And then with no threat of non-performing loans, no threat of default from government. It's risk-free, you know. So, and that's where they see the, humongous profit they declare year on year and all of that, without you having or seeing clear impact on the economy or on the citizens. Right. So it will continue to be like that until we rechannel our efforts into providing energy. I mean, when I say energy, the support, the fund, the resources for the real sector and the MSMEs to thrive in the system.
Okay, let's talk about the implication of these halts, because I mean, as far as we would assume, as far as the public knows, the government has just halted the release of that budget. But we know that economically it has implications, because, and one of which is, how do we rate the performance of the government if we don't know what they use the money to do? So if you can see that this is a target of a person, but you cannot measure whether or not they've been able to meet up to that target, that's shadow boxing. So what is the implication of this halt to Nigerians and the common man? And businesses that you have said, the MSMEs that you have said, is one of the most important. So what's the implication of this?
You like throwing difficult questions.
It's not difficult, it's more, but we need clarity.
Okay.
We need clarity.
Okay, sad enough. You see, there's this adage that says when you are roasting groundnut for a blind person, you are supposed to be listening, so that the person can't see you, But whistling, you know that you can't be eating and yet be, so you can't multitask on that. So that tells you, that gives the comfort to the blind person to say, oh, I think this guy is
working,
not cheating me. Unfortunately, that's not the case with Nigeria, and I think it keeps, for someone like me, let me use myself as an instance, to the extent of me mining data from government independently, because these are things that we could have just gone to the website of Ministry of Finance or the budget office and just pick the BIR, budget implementation report for whatever quarter that it is, then we can plan ourselves, going forward. Unfortunately, we have to go extra mile, go to MBS, that's the Bureau of Statistics, go to budget office ourselves, and despite the FOI that everybody talk about, the FOI Act, Freedom of Information Act, that is, you see a lot of resistance from these people when you go to them to extract economic data. But whereas if government had been fulfilling its own part of publishing the BIR, this would be very easy. So I just imagine myself now, for little economic decisions that we make, in my office and some other people that we provide those data to, the economic effect, the impact that will make. Imagine that we have this information available for investors, analysts to send and then to make decisions. That could honestly drive a whole lot of trillions into the economy. So to us now, we feel we are penny wise, whereas we are pounds foolish. That's the case with Nigeria. So it's very unfortunate.
Now, you mentioned earlier that foreign investors, they see the opportunity in Nigeria. They come in, they invest, and they make their profit. How about Nigerian investors? Do they see the same level of profit? Are there the same level of opportunities for Nigerian investors to invest in Nigeria? Or we are just making the environment more conducive for foreigners to come in, invest, take the profit and leave our country, whereas our own local investors are not enjoying the same profit?
It is by far better for the foreign guys. I give an instance that in Nigeria now, except the banks, almost auction is not open to local investors, even the PFAs.
Is there a reason for that?
Because the government feels that, look, the basic reason, let me put it this way, the basic reason is for FX purpose, reserve purpose. The foreign guys will come in with their dollars, and then we give them the instrument. But if Nigerians, if local, entities want to invest, they will invest in Naira anyway. And what effect will that be? They will just enjoy the high interest rate and then no effect on. But with the foreign guys coming in with their dollars, that will boost, our FX reserve. It will also, in fact, it's not even it's not the expectation. It is what is happening and what is happening now. We've seen them coming with huge dollars, taking huge interest out of Nigeria. We've seen that effect on our FX reserve, and that's the effect is on our exchange rate as well. We've seen a lot of stability in the last few months. Naira, you can predict now in the next 2-3 years, you can plan Naira rate and all that. So even if we are looking at Naira depreciating or finding its right value whatsoever, analysts have said, okay, it can't be more than between 5% to 10% depreciation of Naira between now and the end of the year. This wasn't the case. We didn't have this kind of case in the past. So for the foreign investors, it's just a win-win for them. They come in, they enjoy the high interest, and then they take their funds anytime they want. But for Nigeria, it's two-edged sword. Fine, when they bring these funds to us, it gives us, huge reserve. It gives stability to our local currency because Naira we have enough, buffer for Naira to defend the Naira. But we end up paying through our nose very high interest, which of course increase our debt profile. And that's just it. But for local guys, of course, we also have our own share of the high interest rate, but not as good as the foreign guys.
So how would Nigerians hold the government accountable? Because if you look at our inflation rate, which is our inflation rate right now, which is around 28.5%, if I'm not mistaken, for July.
20.12.
Thank you. Now, of course, we also see that there's high cost in living in Nigeria. Transportation is crazy.
Yeah.
Bills for the hospital is crazy. You know, food in Nigeria is crazily high at this point in time. How would Nigerians hold the government accountable, especially when it comes to budget implementation reports?
Okay. Let's talk about inflation briefly. We've seen inflation moderating from a high level of record high of 34%. I think around September of last year, if I'm not wrong. 34% to a base position of around 20 something, I think 24 or thereabout, and now that's moderated to 20.12%. So, and we've also seen food inflation, which I think, you see, when we talk about inflation within the Nigerian concept, or generally, 3 items I look out for. The first is food. The second is energy, because whatever happens to those two guys, will definitely have spiral effect on the inflation figure. So what we've seen in the last few months is stability in our energy prices. With the coming on board of Dangote refinery, we've seen price competition going on between Dangote and NNPC and other petroleum product marketers. And then that aside, then we've also seen some level of stability in improvement in our food inflation. Though we know that we are not where we are supposed to be or where we wish to be, but we've seen slight improvement. And of course, we go to the market, because we do that often. We go to the market to check prices, and we can see on the ground that, look, whereas some prices have stabilized, some have actually come down. Of course, that's not to say some have not increased. You know better than I do. So, and then the truth is, for Nigerians, the impact is not being felt much compared to the sliding pattern of the figures or the data that we're seeing. And we talked about this earlier. It's just that they still this economic data and practically reality mismatch that is going on in the system, and that's it. That's it.
Okay. Now, you talked about the Nigerian debt profile.
Yeah.
And, of course, report says that the $750 million World Bank loan is supposed to arrive today.
Today, yes.
And according to that report, the target for this loan is health security in general, and security infrastructure and climate resilient digital infrastructure in underserved areas.
Yeah.
These budgets also help when we want to access loans. Am I right?
Very well. Very well.
Is this halt that the government has introduced now going to affect access to debt in any way?
Well, I think in my mind, I think the government must be playing double standard, because these are some of the prerequisites for getting these loans. So it is obvious that they must have provided these guys this information, and then denying Nigerians access to those information. That's one. From the intro, from your one of the questions, you said 18 trillion is expected. That's the budget gap, and it's expected that 18 trillion will be needed to fund the budget, and that's very clear. And that's the $750 million is one of the major avenues where the 18 trillion will be funded. And we also know that just yesterday, the debt management office offered $200 billion bond auction, 2030 and 2032. And at the end of the day, because we've seen the system, liquidity in the system, getting to record high in the last 1 week or 8 days or so, it got to as high as over 3 trillion. No, investors want to buy, they want to invest, they want to do, but CBN and DMO collaborated, and that is, to me, it's just a way of aligning fiscal and monetary policy, and they're having to force markets to swallow whatsoever that they offer. So from the 200 billion offering, the subscription reached as high as 1.3 trillion. And at the end of the day, what happened? DMO had to take over 576 billion. Do you understand? So that's another way of funding this. And we know that in the last quarter of the year, I think with the level that we are, though we don't have the record, There is no publication to show budget performance and all that.
it.
But from little independent investigation that we made, I think the government will have to come out massively in the last quarter of the year to make up the deficit in the budget. But the bad side of it still remains that we do not really have this data to help us make informed decisions.
What do you think is probably the reason? Because you honestly, you have to be able to identify so that they can rectify the errors in data. But this has gone on for too long. In the last 4 quarters, we have not received any PIR whatsoever. In the second quarter of 2024, and this quarter, we haven't gotten any data. What do you think is responsible for this?
Despite being a human source, this government has also added to control the agenda various because the past speaks for itself. I mean, right mentioned the fact that there's some noticeable growth, positive performance in the economy, and then people will say it and they will see it as it is. But on the, data release, publication, and transparency, generally, transparency side, I think this government has fallen so short of it. It has fallen so short of it. I don't want to go into details of it, but it's very clear, it's very obvious. And we can only, plead or, admonish the government to say, look, improve on this side, on the side of transparency. Let all of this record be in the public domain. It will do us more good than whatever it is that they are trying to hide. Because, when I have these data, I can probe you. I can probe whatever statement that you make. So I think that's what they are trying to avoid. They don't want people to say, can you see, because this is a government that will go abroad and come back and say, we have, what's it called? We have mobilized foreign investment. Or so.
Look at that for Edo State,
$250 million. Come on.
Without any trace of the organization, because the company that they said issued that investment platform cannot be traced at all.
We know the truth. We know the truth, but we never wanted to know the truth.
All right, we're already half of the hour, and it's been an interesting conversation so far. We all know that transparency is a democratic requirement, and if this is being withheld from the public as it is supposed to be, then he would say, I guess we say, you know the truth as much as I do. But yeah, it's already half of the hour. Let's go out on a very short break. When we get back, we'll keep up with this conversation. Please do not go anywhere.
Meet the men and women shaping the future of Nigeria. Get to know your representatives at the National Assembly. From lawmaking to constituency projects, we'll take you behind the scenes and inside the chambers of the Nigerian National Assembly. Learn about the bills they are championing, the challenges they are facing, and the impact they are making in their constituencies. We'll also bring you closer to the people they are serving and the stories that shape their work. Join us on NAS Watch every Friday on Rapid Television at 7 p.m. So get informed, get engaged, and get to know the leaders shaping Nigeria's future.
Nigeria's economy.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. It's Rapid Dawn right here on Rapid TV, and we have been having quite an interesting conversation, I must say. I don't know about you. I don't know. It's been an interesting conversation with Mr. Idris Adeneye, and we have been talking about the federal government halt on the release of quarterly budget report. Thank you so much again for joining us on the show today.
Thank you.
Right. Now, we know that there are bodies that are supposed to oversee some of these things, as we have spoken about. Then when oversight bodies like the Public Accounts Committee recover funds, which are supposed to look into these irregularities in the budget and in the system, and we don't see, right up until now, we haven't heard any sort of SERAP used to be one of the most common organizations to vocalize some of these irregularities. But these organizations that are charged primarily with the responsibility of calling out the government when they are going in the wrong, we haven't heard anything from them. Now, given your understanding about Nigeria and the economic system, how much has this administration hurt itself politically by withholding these reports that are meant to be dispersed into the public space?
Yeah. I think the damage to this administration is enormous. It's very, very enormous, and it's patterned. Let me put it that way. It's patterned, and you could be tempted to say it's intentional.
Okay.
You know, perhaps they feel that in their own mind, probably hiding this information from the public will do them better than making public see how things are faring. I set an instance of, there's a major newspaper that published oil theft reports recently. And that paper put the oil theft at around 18 trillion naira, you know, for over, I think, 5 years or number of years. And we saw a government agency coming out to say that report, they didn't deny the report, because this organization extracted data even from the website of that government agency. But their own complaint about the report was the exchange rate used. That, okay, for the period, some of the period the theft were going on, Naira wasn't 1,500. Because
so you cannot amount to the billions of...
So I hope that answers the question. So the vocal guys that we used to have in the past, oh, come on, the likes of SERAP and Budget. We've seen Budget itself as an organization, you know, having lower or, I don't know, silence them anyway, I don't know. And SERAP too has not been that, you know, vocal as it used to be. But if you now expect the Public Account Committee of the National Assembly to, come on, your guess is as good as mine.
That line.
That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Let's come back to the halt again a little bit more. The federal government halting the release of the budget report, like you stated earlier, is a crime on its own, correct?
Yeah.
And if you look at the Fiscal Commission, it seems like they've been silent. You know, they've not really said anything about the breach of that law. What could be the reason?
Here we are again. We are on the same spot. Okay. The reason is could be. I'm just thinking, just playing the devil's advocate now. Okay. So for Nigerians, the reason can never be good. There's no good reason for withholding information that is supposed to be readily available to Nigerians. For them to make informed economic decisions. There's no good reason that can be adduced to that. However, for the government, and then some of the agencies that are supposed to monitor and then report or, you know, criticize or castigate government for violating the laws of the land. The reason for the silence, it's not far-fetched. Everybody is just playing by certain rules. And I said it, that it looks to me, the way these activities are carried out, it looks to me that it's patterned. Is predetermined. So because, look at this, before this time, we've seen some government agencies raising their voices against government, before this government. But these days, what do we see? Everybody is just kept in the pocket, you know, at the detriment of ordinary Nigerians.
Are you saying these institutions are getting weaker by the day?
Obviously they are. Are you also saying they are politically engineered? Well, I just hope it's not. I just hope it's not.
Well, you talked about some of the. You talked about some of the things, obligations that IMF would need before they even give a nation, you know, a loan as it is. And one of it is publishing these reports annually. And Nigeria has not published for about 4 quarters. We have some other African countries like Rwanda, they've also gained some loans. Credibility is a thing.
Yeah.
And if the IMF still gives Nigeria the loan, in as much as they see that Nigeria has not published this report, what does that also say about IMF, as an institution, and then our country, Nigeria? Is it a selective kind of transparency that they are playing at? Because Nigerians are not aware of this report, but IMF has this report.
Well, it's obvious. The reason is obvious. I mean, you set the rules for me, and I comply with your rules, despite hurting myself. You oblige me whatsoever that it is. When last did you hear Nigeria having, issues or discrepancies on policies with IMF?
It's been quite a while.
The IMF itself has always also been accused many times of that same double standard.
Complicity in the Nigerian situation, anyway, and then double standard. And that's what, it is clear, that's what we have now. How come that IMF is giving out this loan, this assistance and all that, based on conditions that we, the Nigerians, are not seeing? They are having it. So is it that, okay, why not just say, okay, this information that you've given us about the performance of your budget, where is it shown? Where is it in the document?
Your people have access to it.
Do your people have access? So it's not you just providing those records to IMF because you want to get something from IMF, and IMF will just take it like that. It shows that, it shows the level of complicity, around, or to the detriment of Nigerians. But I keep saying that, look, if this government, and I know, I'm sure they know, because they should know, they have better data than I do. They know better than I do. If this government really want to be fair to us, all of these things should be in the public domain, because in my opinion, they will benefit the economy far better than withholding this information.
Even outside of the government quarters, like you said, investors, independent auditors would be able to, or investors, portfolio manager, you see, would be able to know where to key in the next investment, know the direction that they should take. Right, so if the government continues in this pattern, what is the risk for Nigerians' financial discipline? Or is it financial discipline or fiscal discipline in inflation, in borrowing cost, public debt, and foreign investor perception?
The Fiscal Responsibility Act, unfortunately, the enforcers have been very weak, maybe deliberately weakened to allow all of this to pass, or the enforcers are also complicit in the current, in the unveiling event situation. Because there's no gainsaying this, that should we continue on this trajectory, we'll get beaten. There's no way we won't get beaten. We can manipulate, we can publish inaccurate data as much as possible. But there will come a time that it will be clear that, look, what you are feeding us is not in conformity with our system. So that will play out, and at that point there will be a repricing of event. Do you understand? But we are Nigerians, we are stakeholders in this economy, and we can always advise the people saddled with this responsibility. And we appeal again that particularly the Minister of Finance, who shoulder this responsibility rests, to please allow the system to do what is right. Do what is right. And when we do what is right, it is automatic. The multiplier effect will be there for all of us to see. Just like the multiplier effect of this opaqueness is also biting on Nigerians. Yes.
So what are the major requirements, if you are in the quarters of the government, that you can directly influence? What are the major requirements of reformation do you think that Nigerians can make, especially when it comes to our economic policies?
Major requirements, yes. The first one is, in fact, the first really to me is the budget performance. We just have to know. Okay, look at the new tax regime. It's a burden. Who bears the incident of tax? Is the taxpayer. So we keep bearing this burden as corporate, as individuals. And we should also have the right, if this body falls on us, the right to know, the right to decide should also be in us, you know. But that we're not seeing. And that's why the situation of an average Nigerian cannot balance, because you are giving, you are not taking. And then that's it. That's just the balance sheet. You never have the right balance sheet. So the first thing is, look, government, ensure you comply with the laws that you
have
created. That's number one. Release budget report. Let's see our performance. Let's see where we're faring, what we're doing, where we are doing right, what we are not doing right, so we can all come together to say, look at that area, look at this area. Of course, look at corporates. After 3 months after end of every year, you are compelled by law to publish a report. So if we are not publishing, if we are not meeting up that deadline, you write the regulators to seek for additional period, you know, for you to publish the report. And it is when they publish that report that you pick it without the consent of the publisher to say, okay, let me see what. You see, oh, this company has cash flow, there's value in it and all of that, and then you go buy their shares. You know, you go invest in them. It's just the same thing with government. You comply with this law, people will just pick those information and then make informed decisions that will help the economy. That's number one. Then number two is this era of, how do I put it? How do I put this now? Let me say the rate environment. I mean, there's more need than ever for the fiscal authority and the monetary authority to align. So we're seeing some mismatch that is not healthy for the economy. And I said recently, until recently, the way we see the two of them, that's OMO rate through the NTB and OMO through CBN, and of course bond auction through the DMO, trying to play the game, forcing rate down the throat of investors now, not even allowing market to decide where rate should sit. But then we still need more of this, because we've seen, look at recently published, the MPC communique, where you have non-TSA, the likes of non-TSA organizations, the likes of MPA, BOA, BOI, all of the FRS, these are non-TSA organizations now, having to do 75% CRR. I don't understand. So, and what impact will this have on the system? Okay, the money, this CRR that you're asking them to do, where is it going? Is it still to the CBN, or you are unleashing it to the economy for economic growth and all of that? So we need to all of this information need to be in the public domain. We need to know, and people need to impact the people, because this is government, and we must have that direct impact on the citizenry. Unlike the private, the corporates, we just said it now, the private guys, they are at liberty. They may choose not to lend to the real sector despite all the incentives that government will provide. They will just go to OMO, buy OMO, take their rate, and
the rate at which you have mentioned OMO, it's looking like there's investment in OMO that people need to go make.
That's the highest yielding investment besides equities anyway. That's the highest yielding investment now.
Because it must be in use at all.
And then the funny thing about it is, it's not common. It is restricted. Simply that way.
Okay.
It is restricted. You can't deal. I can't deal.
Why not?
Because we use naira. They need dollars.
It has to be foreign. Just to wrap up, there are certain things that the government have tried to introduce to ensure that Nigerians in quote are transparent with them. One of which is what they are bringing in now for NYSC. They're talking about first they talk about forgery of certification, racketeering as it is. They want Nigerians to be transparent. And they said for you to get down to NYSC and serve as a youth corp, rather, you must also produce certain documents. One of which is your project currently. Now they're doing all of this to ensure that Nigerians are transparent with the government, and then forgery certification is being eradicated. Now, the government is demanding for transparency amongst the citizen. The citizen of the nation also demanded for transparency from the government, but we are not getting many transparency or more transparency from the government. but the citizens to an extent, given that transparency, how do we do this balance?
Yeah, can you give what you don't have? I don't think so. You cannot give what you don't have. And then the people in government today are not manufactured from space. They are from us, from within us. So they have this deep-rooted Nigerian character in them. Whereas government, we are on paper around the world, Nigeria has the best policy. Anyway, I challenge you to controvert me on that. So Nigeria has the best policy on paper, and this is just one of such. But when it comes to implementation, you see, the son of that big man will not drop any of these documents, and the guy will be allowed to serve. That's selective justice. And then the government that is even asking for this, you can't even show us your own scorecard on what belongs to all of us. Do you understand? So that's it. But I think the NYSC project, to me, in my mind, I think the good of it is, look, this repositioning that NYSC is trying to do on, ensuring that every graduate now think towards being an employer and not an employee. The small, medium-scale entrepreneurial, system, orientation that they begin to put into the head of these guys, I think will help the economy. But then when all of these people come out, because we see more youth doing, is it online business, online boutique, online this, online that,
we have something out there.
But there's no incentive, to energize this thing and then make them, reach their potentials. But we just hope that the right thing will be done, and we all know the right thing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Idris Adeniyi, for your time here. It's been an enlightening conversation again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
for having me.
Yeah. All right, now back to myself and Victor. Well, you see, the problem of budget and transparency is one conversation that we cannot exhaust having, especially in this part of the world.
Of course not.
We see that lack of implementation reports reduces trust, and studies show that publicly available budget reports raise citizens' confidence in institutions. So if we are a part of the budget system, if we are a part of the implementation process, it gives us confidence, or it builds our confidence. That way we can say that this is what the government is doing. And we might not be able to claim that there's mismanagement of funds, because we obviously can see what the government does with it.
Visible.
But many times it's looking like you can do what you want. We don't give you the report. You can speak as you want. There's nothing you can do about it. Now they have completely withheld the reports, which means that you can't even drag them for mismanagement. Can you drag a person for what you don't know?
You don't even know about.
You're not even aware.
And that's why I have a problem as well. Talking about the fiscal commission, like we asked our guest earlier on, the commission, they are in charge, to ensure that that act is being implemented. And now that act has not been implemented for over a year, or let's just say a year, and they've done nothing about it. I mean, they're moving on, with their lives as if nothing has happened. That is corruption on one part.
You might not be able to say what had happened from their quarters, because they'll tell you that they report with higher authority, and there are some of these restrictions that will be given to them. But this complacency can also be politically engineered.
That's one part. So again, all of these institutions, should they be in the pocket of our politicians?
INEC chairman is being appointed by the president. And you're asking.
but again, the fiscal commission, right, which of course is the body that helps us, get to monitor our budget and how it's being displayed as it is. We don't have all of these things coming on board. One problem on one hand. Look at the economic situation. We have foreigners enjoying the benefits of the economy, more than Nigerians are enjoying that. And the government does not see an issue with that. SMEs are suffering from it. What's the interest rate? 27%. It was 27.5%, and now they made it 27%.
And they celebrated the fact that was taking up.
Now, how many small businesses can pay that 27% interest back to the government or back to any bank as well? I mean, again, if you look at it, there are so many small businesses that, to an extent, are trying to do their businesses without registering maybe under CAC, because they're also trying to avoid some of all of these irregularities.
But now it must be registered. It has been put out there that it must be registered.
But businesses still go on even without registration.
Well, the time is going to come when there will be a clampdown on all of those institutions, especially when they operate with very high figures and they have very high returns. They must be registered. How do you tax them? even if the government is not, if we think the government is not efficient in many other areas, when it comes to taxing, we have seen them on their feet. They have been able to tax Nigerians and tax businesses, right? And they have said a certain amount of money will not be taxed. If you're any less than 500,000 naira, you will not be taxed. How would they know? They have access to this bank account. That's why they link your BVN and do all of those linkages so that data becomes super easy for them to be able to ascertain the number of people who receive this amount of money. Remember, a certain amount of money in your account will be questioned, which means that you can no longer operate without registering your business officially. A time will come where there will be a clampdown for these people, and it will just be much more damage to them if they don't register at the time. But I think this is where we draw the curtain for the conversation today. It's been an amazing one out there. I enjoyed having this conversation, but we'll be heading out now. We also need to remind you that we are active across social media platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, which is now X, and TikTok. It is at Rapid TV. On YouTube, it is at Official Rapid TV, which means you can rewatch all our episodes. And with the website, you get to take us literally everywhere with you. It is www.rbnradiotv.com. My name is Martha Alu.
And of course, I am Victor Ake.
See you tomorrow.